Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today, start of a new character, start of a new project, start of a new Autobomber. And this Autobomber will hopefully clear all content, will be super speedy, and will probably be one of the best characters this game has ever seen. What am I talking about? An Herald of Assassin Autobomber. This time played as an assassin with the new, what is it called? Storm's Secret, or Storm Secret, which got introduced in the 3.11 Harvest League. So this ring here is quite of a game changer when it comes to Herald of Thunder. So Herald of Thunder, I think if this is not your first league and this is your first day playing Path of Exile, you should probably know or be aware of what is Herald of Thunder and how does it work. So this time around, this is more like a theory video where we're gonna talk over certain mechanics and what we could do with this character to make it like very, very insane. And since I know all of you guys are waiting for the map showcase, we're gonna do this early on because I wanna take this video to explain a lot of mechanics that we wanna, or at least I tried to put into this character to make it just OP as fuck. I'm just gonna say it like it is. I think this character is going to turn out really, really great. Hopefully, at some point, with enough currency. We're gonna see. So, at the moment, level 75. I leveled this one up yesterday. So, we're just gonna run a white tier map. So, you see the basics. I mean, the gems are like level 17. It gets +2 levels of the Agnarat here. This is budget, okay? And I mentioned this because this character, once it's very polished and ready to go for my purposes, it's probably gonna take 100 exalts, okay? So this build will not be cheap. This version, though, is cheap. Yes, 6-link Impulsor is about, I don't know, 6-7 exalts or something. The Agnarat you get for like a Chaos, I think, and then if you 6-link it yourself, it's like 2 or 3 exalts just because the fusing prices are insanely cheap. You get like 500 or 600 fusings per exalted orb. The rest still leveling gear with Gold Rim and String of Servitude just for all resistance. The rings are not that... I mean, they are kind of expensive though. Well, they're 1 Chaos. Okay, the rings are super cheap. Currently using Astramentis just to equip my gear, so this is really start of the build, okay? But it works. It does work. So first of all, I want to mention one thing. Why do I use the Storm's Gift? It is because Herald of Thunder cannot shock, okay? So when using an Impulsor, usually when you have Lightning skill, everything explodes. This is why you're actually wearing an Impulsor, right? But the Herald of Thunder doesn't shock. That's why we're using Storm's Gift right now, because the enemies you kill are shocked. So I can use Ally Focus, for example, on Stonebrand, for example, and it will still trigger the explosion, because everything that dies will be shocked. Everything that shocked and dies will trigger the Impulsor here, right? Just for the small reminder on that. I think we're gonna run a tier 5 map real quick to show you the really, really early stages of the build. And it is a shit ton of fun, dude. I don't know. Wait, Fist Reflect is actually a little bit weird. This is how I kill my characters, actually. Fist Reflect, because I have a cast damage taken with Wave of Conviction, and Wave of Conviction deals physical damage. I had this problem last league, actually, when I was running physical reflect maps on my Autobomber from last league, and I died, you know, and I'm like, wait, there's no Ellie reflect, like, what the fuck, you know, until I realized, wait a second, Wave of Conviction deals physical damage, and that killed me, so that's why I rerolled the physical. So all you need to do, you can actually trigger the Herald of Thunder with the cast damage taking, what is it, the Shock Nova, right? So what I could do is just stand here, or at least get hit. It will trigger the Shock Nova and the Herald of Thunder goes off, you know? Or you use the Orb of Storms. Is something I really like to use, and I'm kind of used to it from the past. Orb of Storms, Stonebrand, for example, and then just run around and let Herald of Thunder do the job, right? So I'm usually running around. I'm using 1 Orb of Storms to trigger, and then we basically pop Flask, and this is what we do. We're just gonna run around. This is all we need to do. Just run around, pick up loot, and keep your flasks up. That's all, you know. And if there is something that has more HP, you can still just lay down a brand, and it should actually die pretty quickly. But yeah, as I said, explaining of the build and how everything works a little bit later. This is just for pure map showcase for people that are Just want to see how this build could potentially look like, or the playstyle, how is it like, or how does it feel like, right? And at the moment, it's just basically just running around, that's it. Run around, pick up loot, be super fast with the, what's it called, evasion, no, not evasion, the elusive, right? Quicksilver Flask with all the buffs that the assassin gets. I mean, the elusive, the ascendancy got a little bit nerfed, but it's not really a big deal at all, you know? It's just a little bit movement speed or something that is missing, so I wouldn't say that's like a big of a deal. It's still super strong. It's one of the best defensive mechanics in the game. And for single target, I mean, you can just pop your brands and watch things die. And do note, I think, yeah, I don't even have Runebinder yet, right? Runebinder makes the 2 brands are attached to the target. So this is what are the next 2 levels, because at the moment I don't even need single target. The Storm brand, the Herald of Thunder, deals insane amounts of damage, right? So good. That was the map showcase, just if you're interested in how does this look like. Now we come to the interesting part, how does this work actually, right? And I mean, in the map showcase, it was nothing really special, you know, like having Herald of Thunder explode things with an impulsor chest is nothing like game-breaking or anything like that, right? But what is game-breaking is the fact that this Storm's secret says Herald of Thunder also creates a storm when you shock an enemy, okay? How does Herald of Thunder usually work? Herald of Thunder only triggers when you kill a shocked enemy, right? You kill a shocked enemy. Then it starts to make these thunderstorms weird things, you know? With this ring, you just need to shock an enemy to trigger these storms. And that is game-changing in terms of you can now use that on single target. Like, for example, on bosses, Cyrus, for example. Cyrus doesn't have any minions. He doesn't spawn any minions. So, Herald of Thunder on Cyrus is 100% useless. Or let's say 95% useless, because you still get some flat added damage to your attacks and spells, right? But that's it. But with this ring, you now can just use your Orb of Storms or Stormbrand, shock the enemy, which is essentially gotten easier in the past. They changed how shock and stuff like that works, so it's easier to apply shock nowadays. And that means that you can actually use Herald of Thunder as a single target tool. And this is game-changing. The problem with this ring is the last line. Take 250 lightning damage when Herald of Thunder hits an enemy. And it also, Herald of Thunder Storm hits enemies with 50% increased frequency. That means Herald of Thunder usually has a certain amount of storms that will pop, right? So if I just mouse over this, got so much text. Where is it? Storm hits an enemy every 0.25 seconds on the bottom side here, right? That means every second I get 4 lightning bolts down, right? So I equip the first ring and it gets down to 0.17. I equip the second ring because it stacks. It gets down to 0.13. And if we would check 1 times 0.13, no wait, what was the shit? 1 divided by 0.13. There you go. So we have 7.7 heralds per second, right? And if you take this for single target, all the 7 or close to 8 heralds will hit the same target. So it's now about to scale your herald damage, so this just demolishes enemies, right? So that's about the ring, how that works. Why is it so cool for single target? So first of all, you can proc at single target. Second, you can have twice as much heralds per second than usual. So the downside is this 250 lightning damage taken when you use Herald of Thunder, or at least when the lightning strikes. That would mean technically, if we have the... Oh god, what did I just open? Get away here. What the fuck? So these times... what did I just say? 250. Yeah, this times 250. Because we have 7 heralds per second, and every herald will basically give us 250 lightning damage. So we would take 2000 damage per second without resistance. This is getting mitigated by your lightning resistance, and if you say typically you have 75 lightning resistance, right, then this is times 25. So you're gonna get 500 damage per second, and if you wear 2 rings, this is times 2. So yeah, I know that looks a little bit weird, but just let me tell you, you get about, I would say, as I said, with 2 rings, you would get about 500 damage per second per ring, okay? Yes, with the mitigation and so on, because don't forget, it is 250 every time Herald hits. And my Herald hits currently 8 times per second, so 8 times 250, you know? And this is then mitigated by lightning resistance, but it's still, with 2 rings, even with the mitigation, it's almost 1,000 damage per second that I get, you know? So this is the first thing that I need to find out how to solve this. The first take on this was actually a Juggernaut. So the thing is, how I planned this character firsthand was using these rings and then also use the new chest. So the new chest, I think I have it somewhere here. It was Doriani's prototype. So that was the first thing. So it says lightning resistance does not affect lightning damage taken. And don't forget, the rings will give you lightning damage. Okay? So, therefore, armor also applies to lightning damage taken, and the nearby enemies have lightning resistance equal to yours. It means if I have 75 lightning resistance, all the nearby enemies will have 75 lightning resistance. But with this chest, I can completely ignore lightning resistance. I actually don't even want to have lightning resistance. I actually want to have as low lightning resistance as possible. Best way, like minus 1000, okay? So, lightning resistance does not have a cap. On the top side, yes, 90% is the hard cap. But on the lower side, if we go, you can have minus 150 lightning resistance, right? So lightning resistance doesn't do anything for us, right? So we use that tool, like, you could actually use, like, self-curse conductivity to get your lightning resistance even lower. That means that the enemies will have way lower lightning resistance. And then I used a Juggernaut to just stack armor as max as possible with endurance charges, with everything, right? I know endurance charges gives you all resistance as well, but you could stack Thread of Hopes, for example. You could use a Ventor's Gamble with minus 25 lightning resistance, right? You can use all kinds of tools to get as low lightning resistance as possible, but then you would only use 1 ring in that part. But that was the base idea, right? And it would actually work, but then I thought, wait a second, I'm playing a Herald of Thunder. I want to play an Autobomber. I just want to walk around and kill stuff. This will work as a Juggernaut too, but I don't have an X-Blow. And not having an X-Blow is shit, because let's say, even if my Herald of Thunder strikes 10 times per second, right? If I run a tier 16 map, with like juiced up with like Saxtons and whatnot, sometimes there is one room that has like 50 monsters in there. So if I only hit like 7 monsters per second, it takes up a couple of seconds until I clear the room, which is super bad. With an Impulsor or an Explode chest, I would just kill one target and everything, poof, and that's about it. One shot, you know? And this is why I ditched the Juggernaut idea with the Doriani's prototype. I just still want to mention it because it's a very cool mechanic that you can take advantage of, maybe for another build that you have in your mind, right? So then there is 2 options that are still quite good, I would say. One would be the Elementalist, and one would be the Assassin. So I'm in love with the Assassin, power charge stacking, crit version, and it's just insane, right? And there is another version. This is like the more budget version. And this time around, I want to give a big shout out to Woolfio. So Woolfio is another content creator. He's doing some excellent videos, especially because he's playing things that nobody else does, or only a few people. He just sees an item and is like, let's build around it, you know? Or just crazy mechanics that are not like meta or anything like that, right? This is the guy. Check out his videos. I'm a big fan of his work. The only problem that he has, he just doesn't want to spend currency on his items, right? So if you know my videos or my characters, I don't care if my character costs 100 Exalt, right? I want to make it fancy, cool, and all content viable. He is the opposite. He is like, ooh, that item is 10 Exalt. I'm not going to use that. Even if he has 10 Exalts, he's not buying that, right? So he's playing currently, he's working around with the same kind of setup with the Storm's Gift, but as an Elementalist. So if you want to follow my build, which will be, I think, my Assassin power charge stacking will have more damage, but I think it will be way more expensive. So if you say, oh, I want to play this the same way, just on a tight budget, then I would highly recommend checking out his non-crit Herald of Thunder stacker, basically using the Elementalist. So why Elementalist? Because of Paragon of Calamity. For each element you've been hit damage recently, 40% increased damage of that element. I'm permanently getting hit by lightning damage, so I'm always going to have 40% increased lightning damage, right? And if we go back to the path of building here, the next thing, for each element you've been hit damage recently, 8% reduced damage taken from that element. So I get lightning damage, but and then for the next 4 seconds, it's recently, yeah, you're gonna get 8% reduced elemental damage, and this also counts for the one that will probably kill you at some point from the rings, the damage that you take, right? And you cannot take reflected damage, super great, as well as the damage penetration from the Herald, the mana reservation, and so on. So the Elementalist is a valid choice for this one. And as I said again, check out Woolfio's video. He's doing the Elementalist version, non-crit, on a more tighter budget than I do, okay? Shout out given. Thank you very much for your content, Woolfio. I really appreciate it. Good. So, back to my assassin. Good. This was the first take on the Juggernaut with this chest. And then I was like, I want to have an Explo chest. You know, I know there is a Nebulist with an Explo implicit. I know we will have access to synthesized items at some point with the Harvest crafting. But even to this point, Explode, let me check, as an implicit, I don't even think there is a single... Oh, there is one single weapon at the moment on the market that has the Explo. For 2 mirrors, right? I'm not gonna play 10 days into the league a character where I plan to use a weapon that will cost several hundred exalt, right? This is not a way to go. Another way to proc explosions would be the obliteration ones, but then you need to curse item and it's only a chance to explode. And the obliteration one will not give you any damage. The next thing would be the two-handed or maces in general, but the problem with maces, I think shaped mace was the stat. I used those on my Blade Vortex Chieftain, like back in the days. It is only, I think, spells and attacks will explode enemies, right? A Herald is a Herald. It is counted as a spell, right? But it doesn't benefit from spell damage, and it's considered reflected damage, I think, and stuff like that, so that will not work either. It would only work if you kill something with your brands, for example. But just running around, I think the shaped mace is not the way to go, as well as it's super hard. It's a melee weapon. It will most likely roll any kind of melee things like fizz damage or something, and just multi-modding it for spell damage that will not even work for our Heralds is just not the way to go, right? And that's the reason why I ditched Juggernaut and went with the Assassin, because I have the option to wear an Impulsor, I have the option later on to wear the Explode chest, which will juice up things way more in terms of clearing. So, let's talk about this effect again. 250 lightning damage taking. This can trigger cast damage taking. So, Juices, is your time for the next Forbidden build with 100,000 loops of cast damage taking. But this time around, I don't want to say abusing it, but I'm using it, the effect of the ring, to trigger cast damage takens, for example, with a Shock Nova. Why Shock Nova? Because it has a natural chance to shock, and as soon as I shock something, my Herald goes off. Then I can also use Wave of Conviction for the lightning exposure, since I have Herald of Thunder active. That means I get added lightning damage to spells and attacks, so my Wave of Conviction will apply the lightning exposure. And then I have Cold Snap. So, Cold Snap in this part is useless, okay? Why do I still have it in? Because this is just my overall setup here. As I explained before, Impulsor with Storm's Gift for the explosions. I do want to actually use at some point the Algor Mortis. These useless fucking gloves that dropped 1,000 times in Delirium lastly, right? But it says enemies in your chilling areas take 35% increased lightning damage. What that means, it's not 35% increased lightning damage. The enemy takes 35% increased lightning damage. That's a more multiplier. It's not my damage increased, he will take 35. This is the same effect as a Cinder Swallow Urn on Ignite for 10%, the Bottled Faith with 10% when the enemy is on Consecrated Ground, you know. This will give me super massive DPS once enemies are on chilled ground. And since I can trigger cast damage taking myself when the Herald hits something, I can use Cold Snap or Arctic Breath, or now it's called, god damn it, not Skitter Bots, I think I have the gem somewhere here, the Creeping Frost. This is like a bolt, and that will create some chilled ground, you know. So I could actually just pop this over here so you can just see how that looks like over here. So if I hit something... Oh wow, with my hideout effect you don't even see, but you see a little bit. See, that is the freezing ground. If an enemy stands on that, it will get 35% increased damage taken from lightning damage. But I think that's the... Like, this is an option to go, or just a cold snap, because the cold snap will also create a freezing area, you know? So that would be great to put in as well. Good, but how do we... Like, when I level this character, right? It's about sustaining. You will kill yourself as soon as you hit level 56 and you're like, holy shit, finally I can use those rings, finally my heralds will do shit tons of damage, right? You will kill yourself. And we did have some big problems yesterday. There was a lot of effort needed to make this actually possible to do. If you're mapping, if you're leveling, and you have the Cinder Swallow urn, you can sustain it, because every time you kill a monster, you recover 3% life, mana, and energy shield, right? But if you run out of flask charges, for example, you will kill yourself. That damage is shit tons of damage in the start, right? So my basic idea was to build around certain mechanics, and I did not want to use uniques for that. The reason for that is the expensive version that I plan to do with like a hubris circlet with a max power charge. This is an Warlord influenced item. Then a staff with like +1 power charge. Since I'm an assassin, I want to stack power charges as much as possible. I want to use rare boots, a rare belt. You know, I know there is Doriani's belt and so on. There's hundreds of options that you could use to mitigate the damage of the Herald rings, but I want to use only my skill tree and see how it goes, so I can really be free to use whatever item I want, right? And I solved this problem using in the first hand the Glorious Vanity with the Doriani influence, which then will give you Corrupted Soul. So Corrupted Soul says 50% of non-chaos damage taken bypasses Energy Shield. So how Energy Shield works, every damage will get over Energy Shield, and once this is gone, it will start taking your life instead. Unless it's chaos damage, obviously. So what this does is 50% of all non-chaos damage will bypass Energy Shield. Means if I get 1000 damage, I will lose 500 life and 500 Energy Shield. So it's split, you know, the damage that I get is split. So why is this good? Because now we can use a double leech. That means I divined this to Doriani, and I checked my radius here to get this one, Revitalizing Lightning, which says lightning damage leeched as life. I know there is flasks like Vinctars, or you could use Aetiri's Promise for Elias extra chaos and chaos damage leeched as life. But I don't want to be bound on flasks as well, you know? Why is that? Because if I run out of flasks, I will kill myself. You know, I really want to stay alive with this build without flasks. So every flask that I use will just be even better, you know, but I will stay alive without as well. So that's why I checked that I get Revitalizing Lightning. So my lightning damage leeches life. So now I need another version that it leeches Energy Shield. And the notes over here, for example... Oh, wait, I still have that skill. This is useless. But good that I just saw it, because I want to mention that anyway. So 1 point closer to the Rune Binder. This note here, where is it? Spell damage leeches Energy Shield does not work, okay? This does not work for Herald. It probably counts for my Stormbrand and my Orb of Storms and my Flame Dash if it hits, you know. But spell damage, no, not on Herald, you know. So you need another form of it. And I choose to go with the Energy Shield Leech support, because this works, you know. Or later on with a Cluster Jewel, I think it is Storm Drink or something, like Lightning Penetration, Lightning Damage, leeches Energy Shield. Probably later on when I have more currency and I will work out the Cluster Jewel setup with the base crit of Heralds and stuff like that. But at the moment, this is my way to go. The Revitalizing Lightning will give me Lightning Damage leeches life. And the Energy Shield Leech support will give me Energy Shield leeched, you know? So based on the Corrupted Soul, I'm losing, like, I'm splitting the damage into half. 1/2 life, 1/2 Energy Shield. And with my Leech clusters, I'm leeching both Energy Shield and life. So I'm having double leech, basically. And then to even make it better, since this did not work out in the start, I also use Mind Over Matter, so 30% of the damage that I take, which is also like the Storm's... we are still talking about the damage that I get from the Storm Secret Rings, right? That means that 30% of the damage will go over mana, and that's why I anointed this node over here, the Battle Ruse, which is 10% of damage taken gained as mana over 4 seconds when hit, you know? I permanently get hit with the rings, so I'm permanently sustaining mana. So I'm actually like... I'm splitting the damage up in 3 parts, you know? One part goes one part goes to mana because of Might Over Matter, and I get mana back when I get hit with the Battle Ruse. One part goes on life, I get life back when I'm leeching with lightning damage. One part goes on Energy Shield, which I'm leeching back with the Energy Shield leech support, you know? So this is like 5-head, I know it's kind of ridiculous about what I built up in here, but it works. It is great, you know? And I want to go hybrid on this build anyways. And the Corrupted Soul will also give me 20% max life as extra maximum energy shield. So I want to get hybrid with like 10,000 EHP or something if we can reach that. But I want to talk about this leech thing. Why is it not enough if I leech back the damage that I get? And herefore I want to write this down so you understand the mechanics. So what about leech? If we take leech as a global thing, just for the explanation here, right? And I hope I got this straight. Leech is basically separated in 10 instances, okay? So every instance will regenerate or leech 2% of your max life, right? Over 5 seconds, total 10%. I think that's properly. 2 times 5 is 10%. So this would be one instance, right? So you have 10 instances, which means that at some point you're gonna leech 20% per second, and this is the maximum, okay? You're probably gonna end up having like 50% of your life over 5 seconds, but we're talking about life leech per second and not about the overall and like overleech and blah blah blah, you know? It's about this one. 2% times 10 is 20%. So this is the maximum that you can leech, 20% of your life per second. I think it's the same for Energy Shield, but to make it easier, we're just gonna take it as life. So, what does that mean? When I have, let's say, 2,000 life is my maximum life. You know, currently it's 2.8, but earlier when I was like level 56, it was like 2,000 life that I had, if even, you know. So, if we take 20% of that, that is 400 life per second that I can leech, okay? So, the problem is, how much damage do I get from the rings? And with 2 rings, that's like 500 damage. If we go back here, we have 500 damage. Then we have times 0.25 because we mitigate 75% of the damage because of my lightning resistance when you're capped. And then we take this times 7.7 because that's the rate of how often Herald of Thunder triggers with 2 Storm's rings equipped. If you only have 1 for now when the leveling process, that's fine as well. Just put this in half, right? But that means even with mitigation, we get about 962 damage per second. So as you see, there is no way of sustaining that, because you get like twice as much damage as you could actually leech, you know? So, the difference is there, though, that the damage that you get from the rings will always be the same. Whether you equip them on level 1, if it's possible, or level 100, you always get the same damage if you have 75 lightning resistance, right? So, the difference is, once you get higher level and better gear, you're gonna have more life. And let's say we have 6,000 life now. We can regenerate 20% per second, basically, right? So this is like 1,200 life per second. And we still get 962 damage per second. So now we can naturally sustain the damage that we would get from the rings based on our leech, okay? So, at the early stages, when leveling the build, it's super hard, because you don't have a lot of life, that means you cannot really leech that much. But later on, if you have a lot of life, it will be way easier to out-sustain the damage, and this is just damage to life. Don't forget, I'm splitting the damage, and I have dual leech and stuff like that, so don't worry if you say like, I really want to play this build, it looks fantastic, and you're hitting level 56, you equip the ring, you're gonna kill yourself. It is like that. It's super hard to sustain early on, especially if you wear 2 of those. Cinder Swoller helps you really a lot here, because recover life when hit, recover mana when hit, sorry, and recover energy shield when hit. So all 3 sources that I use to soak up damage, I can recover. You know, with this one, with this flask, I could easily farm Blood Aqueducts and just run through and just kill everything until I could equip my Impulsor to make it even better, right? So, just to mention that. What other things that can we use? At the moment, I'm using the Agnaroth South. This gives me 2 level of like lightning spell skill gems that also counts for Herald. But it also gives me 5 maximum lightning resistance. So I'm currently having 80 maximum lightning resistance. And this is just to mitigate the damage of the rings even more, okay? But this is not something I would use in the end game, basically, right? I want to have a rare crafted weapon and so on. But in the early stages where I don't really have a lot of life, I'm currently having like 2.8k life, 1.7k energy shield. It helps. The 5% max resistance on lightning helps a lot to sustain the rings, right? I mean, it sounds weird, it sounds crazy, like, hey, if you cannot sustain that, you are permanently talking about that you have trouble sustaining that. You don't even talk about possibilities and whatnot on this build, right? But this is the first thing that you have to take into account if you start this build. You need to fix that problem. Otherwise, you run into a pack, you're just going to kill yourself, and you're not going to have fun. So that's why I really want to spend time explaining why do you die, and how can you, like, not die, right? How can you fix that, right? Good. At some point, I hopefully can swap the Corrupted Soul over to the Mind Over Matter part. You could also use the unique helmet. What is it called? There is a helmet that leeches, like, you get the Mind Over Matter effect. Reach of the Council. No, not Reach of the Council. That was a bow. Was it Reach of? No, Reach. No, wait. Unique Helm PoE. Let's do it the easy way. Let's just search it, because some people might even be interested in that helm as well. It was an energy shield base or hybrid base. Mind of the Council, not Reach. So this thing, 30% of lightning damage is taken from mana before life, okay? As I said before, I don't want to use unique items, so I am free to use whatever I want. But if you say Mind Over Matter is not something for you, you don't want to take that, this is the easy way from Mind Over Matter just for lightning damage, okay? This will help you sustain. And then you can just put this jewel slot over here and scale the Mind Over Matter, and it will get to Corrupted Soul, right? Why do I want to mention that is because, first of all, the Glorious Vanity on this spot will, like, kind of ruin my early start here, which is not the biggest problem. This is a hybrid build. I want to scale life and energy shield, and as we know, this Melding Wheel gives tons of energy shield and life, same as the Written in Blood. So I kind of want to use both of these clusters to scale my total effective HP, right? So I would like to use that over there. And as I mentioned before with my calculations over here, I do think that at some point when I have more life, more energy shield, I will not even need Mind Over Matter anymore to sustain it. It's just an early solution to get rid of the problem when killing yourself with the rings, right? Good. Anything else I want to mention right here? No, actually not. I think this should be enough for the early stage, for the first day of the build, just explaining what I'm working on. Why is this ring so extremely cool, actually, especially with Trigger, the Herald of Thunder on single target, so we have way more damage in the end game, and we don't have to swap around gems all the time. And I just want to mention that you can... This build is now the budget version, and I will modify it super insanely over the next couple of days, but it's going to get ridiculously expensive. Especially because I want to use an exploit chest with Frenzy on hit to use the Call of the Brotherhood, right? To get like 40% more damage if I have 10 power charges. The big problem is, a Call of the Brotherhood at the moment is 20 exalts. 20 exalts just for that amulet. And if you say, the amulet is only good if you have a way of sustaining Frenzy charges for single target as well. For example, an exploit chest with the Frenzy on hit mod. Then we're talking about 30 to 40 exalts for these two items to make it work, right? That's why I say overall this gear will be expensive. This is the budget version, what I would consider budget, that you can use to keep on playing. And also we use Lone Messenger over here to have 100% more damage with hits from the Herald, and that's why I'm only using Herald and no other aura, but I think I can use an aspect as well at some point. But yeah, guys, I would say let's finish this video. There will be tons of modifications at this part in the next couple of days. The path of building link of the current build is in the description below if you want to take a look. And yeah, guys, I hope this build will be as great and insane and cool as I hope it will be. And I hope to see you guys in the next couple of days. If you want to check out the progress, twitch.tv/mbXtreme, streaming every freaking day since league start, actually. So if you want to check that out and follow the progress, then feel free to do so. Good. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.